Hi, everyone. This is Kylene Terhune with Lifelong Vitality, and I am here with Dr. Anna Cabeca. For those of you who have listened to this podcast or followed me for a long time, you may remember that she was on episode 56, where we talked about hormones and her original book, The Keto Green Way. The episode title was Fix Your Hormones, The Keto Green Way, and she shared a lot of her personal story in that. So make sure you go back and listen to that episode, get to know her a little bit. But let me give a short introduction. Dr. Anna Cabeca is an internationally acclaimed menopause and sexual health expert, global speaker, and pioneering promoter of women's health. She's Emory University trained and triple board certified in gynecology and obstetrics, integrative medicine, and anti-aging and regenerative medicine, and a USA Today and Amazon #1 best-selling author of The Hormone Fix, a diet and holistic lifestyle program for menopausal women. And she just wrote a new book that I see it there in the background, the Keto Green 16. We're going to talk about that today, but welcome, Anna. I'm so happy to have you back on and to be able to talk with you a little bit today.
It's great to be here with you, Kylene. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we were just talking about before we hopped on the recording, boy, there is a lot going on in the world today. And I feel like there is so much that we should be doing on a daily basis to support our health so that when we find ourselves in situations where sicknesses are a little bit more prevalent, we feel really confident, in our lifestyle and the way we're supporting our immune system and our health on a daily basis. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but you primarily focus around the keto diet. So before we jump too much into details, can you just kind of lay out what that means for people?
Yeah, so we either use glucose for fuel or ketones for fuel as a predominant energy source, right? This is just about how are we getting and using energy so that we can function at high levels throughout the day. And so ketones is basically energy from fat, and glucose is energy from sugar. It is sugar. And so when we want to get into ketosis, in other words, creating ketones from ideally our body's own fat stores versus the fat that we eat, we have to do things to eliminate the glucose coming into our system. So staying very low carb and doing things to create a lifestyle that enables us to get into ketosis better. So through intermittent fasting, as well as no more snacking, so that we can create a very fine-tuned engine that puts us into the fat burning state so that we can benefit from using fat for fuel, so for higher mental clarity. The big point, Kylene, that I make in my books, The Hormone Fix and now Keto Green 16, is that as we're aging, our brain's ability to use glucose for fuel diminishes because it is a estrogen dependent process, which is pretty fascinating. Yes, and it's true. Men have estrogen too, but they are not relying on ovaries to make their estrogen. We get a good amount of our estrogen from our ovaries. So as we get older, our ovarian function declines with a drop in progesterone, which is a precursor hormone to our adrenal hormones, as well as to estrogen and testosterone. So what we have to do, we have to shift from using glucose. So this is why many people have the brain fog, the irritability, the difficulty sleeping, don't feel rested. I mean, I experienced all these things. That's what put my experience, like we talked about in our last podcast, put me on this journey. And so when we switch to ketones, to getting into a state of ketosis, we bypass that mechanism and we have this really even higher alert state. And it just makes a huge difference in how we think, how we feel, and the quality of the rest of our lives.
So when you talk about being lower carbohydrate, obviously you would be avoiding, the processed sugary carbs and things like that. So when we think about a certain level of carbohydrates needed for, hormone support and things like that with women, how low are you going that is still in a safe environment for active women?
So it really depends on the individual, but typically it's below 40 grams. I created a keto calculator, so that we'll give you a link for. So it's a keto calculator to look at our keto green, like what does it look like to be keto green? What does the macros look like? And based on your height, your physical activity level, and whether you want to lose weight, gain weight, or maintain your weight, created a day in the life of a keto, your keto green day in your life based on your specific requirements and how that looks for you, because it's a common question. And so really our carbohydrates are going to come from the dark leafy greens or alkalinizers to help counteract the very acidifying nature of a ketogenic diet, just from intermittent fasting or starvation or high levels of animal-based foods all increase the an acidic burden on our body. So we need the additional minerals from plant sources for women. That's a big part of it. And we get it from our diet. We get these alkalinizers from our diet, but also our lifestyle. And I talk about this in Keto Green 16. It's not just about what we eat. It's also how we live, how we think, how we sleep, how we move, how we feel. All of this can affect our our body's physiology. And what I have clients do, I have them always check their urine pH, because the urine pH can tell us not just about how well nourished we are, but how stressed we are. If we're, urine pH, we want to see that slightly alkaline, because it's really telling us what's happening with kidney function and cellular exchange, so to speak. Like, how well is our body utilizing the nutrients that we're getting over the other things that can be affecting us, like stress, toxins, hormones, disruptors, inflammation, sugar. This can all affect our urinary pH. Food sensitivities can affect our urinary pH, but stress is a big one. And that's something that I recognized as part of my journey, is that when I recognized the importance of adding alkalinity into a ketogenic plan, a very healthy ketogenic plan, through intermittent fasting, no more snacking, and balanced foods. And in Keto Green 16, I actually walk you through all of this with visual, with a lot of visual examples. So, but when I recognized for myself how, irritable and on edge, and I called it going keto crazy, I was, and I recognized how my urine pH was so acidic, and I worked to add those alkalinizers. I also noted that on the days I did my gratitude journaling and morning meditation, and or morning prayer, or when I walked on the beach in the morning, I was more likely to be alkaline each day, because stress can affect, it definitely has effect on our physiology. And cortisol physiologically creates this hydrogen ion exchange across the renal tubules, and we see that in the urine. So by doing these behaviors that enhance our lower our natural production of cortisol, then it enhances our entire physiology. We feel better, we have better clarity, we have less inflammation in our system. And this is a really nice thing to see and experience.
I love that you mentioned we walk on the beach too, because I'm getting more into learning about the science behind earthing and grounding, and that electrical transfer and how it supports your body physiologically. And it's fascinating to me, first of all, how effective it is. But
Yes.
then, there's so much I feel like with science that feels like it's catching up to things that we know innately and historically, which is, getting out in nature, not being such a fast-paced society, like you're talking about the stress load, and taking that time to breathe. And there are so many things now that are scientifically coming out saying physiologically this makes a huge difference. And it's like, yeah, well, that's like, what we've known technically, like in our souls for thousands of years, but we just ignore it now, right?
Right.
So
Somehow.
that's so cool. And you're pairing it with a specific diet that's kind of, what you put in is just as effective as how you think and what you surround yourself with. And it creates this whole lifestyle environment to kind of all work together. So I did have a question when you're talking about keto and glucose and things like that. Is juicing something, when you're talking about getting a lot of greens in, is juicing something, or is that too sugary?
It can be way too much carbs. And that's what many of my ladies have experienced who have joined me in my online programs, is that they're thinking, okay, well, I've been juicing. And when you break it down, they were getting like 100 grams of carbs in that morning juice.
From that too.
Exactly. So it's straight glucose, fructose into your system often, or straight glucose into your system. So it really does make a big difference. So I encourage the fiber. I tell, like, I was just finishing my keto green smoothie this morning, and I use our keto green powder, what I created because I wanted a nut seed blend for protein. And so it has, like, you can make, and it has 0 grams of sugar. We want 0 grams of sugar, 0 grams of sugar, monk fruit sweetened, 14 grams of protein per scoop, 3 grams of fat from MCT oil per scoop. So it's a nice base. And then you just add a handful of greens, or, a quarter of an avocado to make it really nice and creamy, ice, water, or coconut milk. I have so many good keto green smoothie recipes, but that's a great way to essentially break fast, because you're getting fat, fiber, high quality protein in a very easily digestible form. So you're nourishing your body right away. And so many of my clients have found such a big difference, better than the juicing. Now, I'm not saying don't juice, because there's certainly benefits to juicing, but I like you to get the fiber, and that also helps with our gut microbiome, and it helps with, um, bowel movements, which is a really big issue, especially for so many people going keto. You have to have bowel movements every day. And so the passage of fiber makes a difference.
Let's talk about that for just a second, because you mentioned MCT. There's 3 grams in that. Is that going to give people disaster pants?
No.
Because I know that sometimes you take a tablespoon of MCT and put it in coffee, that's a little too much for people. So is that a dosage that seems to be okay for most people?
Yeah, and a tablespoon is a lot. Like, I always tell clients, a tablespoon of MCT oil is 7 Weight Watchers coins. If you've ever looked at that,
yeah.
It's interesting to look at. That's a lot. 7 is like a third of, a quarter of your days, often a quarter of your day's points, but it also depends. So a little bit goes a long way. So the nice thing about the supplement, the Keto Green Protein All-in-One Meal Replacement, is that it's a base. It's just enough, but you definitely want to eat and add to it, or at least your next meal can be a bigger meal. But this is really nice to give you that protein, get you that fat, so you're not craving, and you're actually helping encourage your body to make some ketones. And you are also giving yourself all the minerals and vitamins that I know. I'm a busy mom, busy person, and it's nice to have that. And also for weight loss, to keep my weight stable and managed. And for so many, we know that substituting a meal with a shake makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I noticed that, a lot of my clients are busy women. And so I think they just appreciate when something is easy and it doesn't take them. It's like they want to be healthy. They want it to be well-rounded. They want to get their vegetables. They want it to be good for them, all these different things. They don't want to, compromise their goals, but they also don't want to spend a lot of time making it, or they just simply don't have the time. So I think those are such a good, when there is a healthy version like that available, it's such a good option for people. And I think you have to be careful, like choose something like this keto green powder, because they're very conscientious about what goes in them and the quality and the balance and things like that. If you just go to the grocery store and get, some protein powder, it's not the same. But when you're getting something that's so well balanced, it's a really, really excellent option. So you are an expert in hormones. You're an expert in keto. Can you talk to us, with everything that's going on right now, does having a diet like this impact your immune system in a positive way? Are there things that we can kind of be aware of with everything going on in ways that we can maybe support ourselves?
Yeah, and this is really an important finding, because you've been running now my online programs, getting people to live keto green, and for 5 years, actually, for 5 years now. And I asked clients from early on to now, like, how do you feel? Like, how's your immune system? And over again, they say that I went from having 1, 2, 3 illnesses per year to not being sick again, touch wood. And that's a really, really big deal. Our immune system certainly increases. And I've known this, but I wanted to just survey, with everything going on with flu scares, coronavirus scares, just wanted to touch in with my community, say, well, how are you doing? How are you staying healthy? I'm like, I don't get sick anymore. I'm not worried about this. I'm like, okay, well, we've got to do all our universal precautions, right? Every time I say that, I think condoms. It's so funny. Universal, condoms and gloves, right? Universal precautions, I tell you. So we have to do that. Absolutely. And be good humans, be kind, good, loving individuals, being, giving, loving, kind, joyful, experiencing play and pleasure in our lives are the best things we can do to boost our immune system and create more oxytocin in our life, which is an alkalinizing hormone. So the more fun you have, you can actually look in your urine and see your urine
Isn't
alkaline.
it amazing? Isn't that amazing?
That's so cool. So cool.
I think it's fascinating how much our thoughts and our feelings impact how our body actually reacts to things.
Well, and that's where, like, so the concept with my keto green is as we get into ketosis, we become more insulin sensitive. And that takes pressure off our other immune boosting hormones like progesterone, DHEA, right? Those are immunosupportive. But when we are stressed and producing cortisol, progesterone and DHEA decline. Right. So this is critical to know. That's why we have difficulty getting pregnant when we're under a lot of stress. That is why we have hair loss, like when we're under a lot of stress, and many other reasons too. But this is one of the functions when we're pushing to cortisol. So it's a life-saving hormone, and so is insulin, but we need a little bit, not like we're doing it. When we're eating all day, snacking all day, eating a lot of carbs, we become insulin resistant, and we're constantly driving up insulin, which is going to affect our other hormones, our hormones that build us up versus break us down. Mm-hmm. So in the keto green way, this is immunoboosting because we're creating insulin sensitivity and managing cortisol and putting oxytocin in the winner circle. So that combination, and we've seen clients restore their period if they were irregular, regain healthy cycles, improve certainly the weight loss and the body image, but up to 90% decrease in symptoms. On our measurements, the medical symptom toxicity questionnaire that so many physicians around the country gives their patients, we've seen up to a 90% reduction in symptoms in just 19 days. So those inflammatory symptoms, right? Those are inflammatory symptoms. We can wash that out of our body by the right combination of nutrition and lifestyle hacks that especially is tailored to us over 40. But it works for anyone. Men, we had one guy lost 25 pounds and he did 2 cycles of it. It's just like men just do it so well, so quickly. It's just so annoying.
Wow. When you're talking about cycles, are you talking about the 16-day plan in your new book?
16-day plan. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So the new book is Keto Green 16, and it walks you through a 16-day specific plan. So is that something, like you're saying, someone did multiple rounds of it? Do you do it back to back? Is it supposed to be like every couple months or however you feel it? And then you kind of move into transition to a longer term lifestyle? How does that work?
Yeah. So I actually walk you through what you do afterwards, after Keto Green 16, like what's your maintenance plan look like? But what I like people to do, especially if you have weight loss goals, this is a kickstart, and you could do it the first 16 days of every month. Do it with your workplace, do it in your corporations. Let's get Keto Green 16. Let's do this together. So we're optimizing our health and supporting our immune system and increasing our resilience, improving our quality of life as we get older. So I would say if you can do it back to back. I typically say take a 3 to 5 day rest in between, because you can get some fatigue from doing the just like with anything, like, okay, take a few days in between. Follow the Keto Green principles. Don't have to follow the plan exactly.
Would that be almost like what is it called? Carb cycling, where you kind of take a little break, people increase their carbs a little bit, and then they get back onto it, because it's almost like a reload kind of thought process there.
Absolutely, to maintain metabolic flexibility. So, and that's, yeah, absolutely. And that's the perfect time. I call it the feasting time. And you're feasting, that doesn't mean donuts. It means like sweet potato, and maybe you're having some, a chickpea or lentil soup or something, just good, healthy choices. And if that's where you want your cookie, go ahead, try to choose a keto one, avoid the bad stuff, and use the good stuff as much as possible. And I do give some feasting recipes too as part of the book bonus package. That I couldn't put everything in the book. It's already a very hefty book. It's really good. And it's an easy read. It's also on Audible and Kindle. But what we did, where I can talk about this man who had done Keto Green 16, actually have a 67-year-old female who was a media attorney, and she had been diagnosed with breast cancer several years earlier. So she has started on the Keto Green 16 plan, and within the 16 days, she lost 11 pounds, but also just feels so like she got her brain back. She said, I felt like I was living in a fog, and I've got my brain back. And that's a beautiful story. We've been running, as I've been formulating, customizing, and fine tuning the program, like how efficient and healthy and yet enjoyable can we be in these 16 days. We've been running group medical visits. Dr. Angeli Akey, actually, out of her medical office in Gainesville, Florida, has been running these group medical visits with the pre-release plan of my Keto Green 16. So it's been really, really nice to see, and seeing these clients come back in with such quick, rapid results, and also improvements in metabolic factors, like improvements in the hemoglobin A1C, where they had trouble budging it before, improvements in cholesterol, improvements in thyroid, and in general, just significant reduction in symptom scores.
That's awesome. So you're mentioning it, being something that's obviously getting results, but also doable for people. So a lot of times when we hear certain diet terms, we have preconceived notions about what it means. And with keto, I think one of the things that people think a lot of is this really, really high fat, all you're eating is fat. So how extreme is it? How versus how balanced between the different macros? I know one of the priorities is obviously getting your carbohydrates lower, but with for example, fat and protein, where are we at with that, and how easy is it for people to get through and maintain once they've gone through the 16 days?
Oh my gosh, I totally want to show you this.
Okay,
So let's see if I can show you a 3-day meal plan. How's that sound?
that would be great.
So let me share my
If you're
screen.
listening to the podcast, you can go check this out on my YouTube channel, and you can actually visually see it, and maybe we can put a
Oh
snap
yeah.
show notes.
And I'll talk about it as we go through it. So you can, to answer your question, I'm just such a visual person. That's why when I was, 48 and struggling, I'm 53 now with a 12-year-old, but when I was 48 years old, I was really struggling with that brain fog. And I needed, and I used to have a great visual memory and a great retention. And so during that time period, I felt like I was losing my mind. I'm like, if this is what the rest of my life is going to look like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Right. So it was
Oh, by the
really
way, that
good.
salad looks amazing. I really want to eat it right now.
I know. So this is very different than when you think of bacon, butter, and Velveeta, right? Everyone listening knows they're not going to do that.
Right.
Although, there are, I've heard people say, yeah, just drive through McDonald's and get, 3 burger patties, no bun. And what else are you getting? You eat what,
Where your animal
what you're
eats.
eating ate. Exactly. So this is a 3-day meal plan bonus that I give for you guys as part of pre-order bonus when you order the the Keto Green 16.
Mm,
And so, like, creating a concept of within just within your 8-hour eating, having, break fast, a lunch and dinner, or combine breakfast and lunch, and then eat your dinner. So you can see this beautiful. I made smoothies so that you can have some
mm.
smoothie options, but here's cruciferous hash, cilantro, lime, salmon, stuffed avocados.
And they look
So
super delicious, but they don't look super hard to make.
no, really simple. And now that I know, just cut an avocado in half, put your knife in the
Mm-hmm.
seed and bring that seed, the seed out, and then just oil, tuna, seasoning, sprouts. I mean, just, and often sometimes if I felt like, okay, I need a quick meal, that's the half of avocado. It's so great.
Mm-hmm.
And always do it yourself keto green salad, or do it yourself veggie saute. That this is a get started, like this help you really alkalinize and get started with Keto Green 16. So this is the way to really kind of push that.
So is there any
That
sort of,
beautiful.
when people go into something like this, is there any sort of detoxing? And people talk about the keto flu and things like that, not feeling well when they're transitioning from how they currently eat to maybe something that's fairly dramatically different. So is there a way that you support people through that? Does that not happen with this?
It doesn't happen. It
Wow.
doesn't happen because we
Well,
push with alkalinity first, right? I really push getting alkaline first and checking, testing, not guessing. Get your urine pH to 7 at least, right? And let's work on that through alkalinizers, using greens and low carbohydrate alkalinizers, and gradually then gradually push your body into ketosis and more of an extended intermittent fasting.
It's not a shock for you.
It's not a shock because I experienced that. Keto crazy, keto flu is not a fun thing, right? And certainly for me, it was keto crazy, irritability, on edge, just not feeling at home in my own body. And this is what I hear back from clients all the time, Dr. Ann, I just feel at home in my own body, or Dr. Ann, I'm healthier than ever. And I love hearing that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So is this out now or is it on pre-order right now?
It is on pre-order right now.
Okay. So where
So
can people go for this?
at dranna.com, dranna.com. And then there's the book bonus page. So that has these book bonuses. So it has the 3-day recipe guide, has a feast recipe guide, and a Keto Green 16 roadmap to show you the, ideal foods to be eating, and then what really you need to avoid, get out of your kitchen and pantry. So you can get started on, prepping yourself right away and start working into the plan right away. And then with Keto Green 16, there's so much more. We really build up into the 16-hour intermittent fasting, going through Keto Green recipes, and then the combination of ingredients that formulated together really help boost metabolism and help you detox and balance your hormones really, really quickly, plus other lifestyle hacks and exercise routines and science that support the reasons that you stay on the plan.
Yeah, you mentioned detox when you were kind of going through that. And I had written down earlier about liver detox, because it sounds like a lot of what is happening through this process is ultimately that you are really giving the body all these nutrients for liver support. And then people just feel more energy and clarity and just feel better. And so it's like this whole body cyclical effect that you have going on, where it sounds like it's supporting, so many different functions in the body. So that's definitely the kind of approach that I like. We're not focusing on just one thing, but we're really giving the body everything it needs really to do its job, right? So dranna.com for the Keto Green 16. And is there anything else that you want to share about this specific book, or what kind of thoughts would you like to leave everyone with today?
Well, I think really it's that no matter what you're dealing with, to not lose hope. And because we're at a kind of stage in our life where we can have a lot of fear and stress with the pandemic that we're exposing ourselves to now. I've interviewed, and in part of my healing journey was around the world, and I went to many war-torn areas of the world and impoverished areas. And what creates vitality, what creates um, you know health and longevity is community. So
I'm
now
so
we
glad
have
you said
that.
that. I love it. Yes.
It's
We
so
don't talk
important.
about that enough.
It is so important, and we need to just maintain that. And within our own home, within our own, our dinner table, just engaging in conversation and learning about what brings us joy. And that's, for me, is really, really important during this time. That's the oxytocin, the power of oxytocin. I write about that a lot because that's what changed my quality of life, and for my family too. And so I want to encourage everyone, when we can laugh, love, give, those are things that boost our immune system and boost the quality of life, and are things that we won't ever regret. So I encourage that wholeheartedly for all our listeners, and never give up.
I love that. Thank you, Anna. And thank you so much for the work that you put into these books, and for getting them out into the world, and for coming on today and sharing your message with everyone. We just really appreciate it.
Thank you.